So we begin, guys, with the Browns offense against the Chargers defense. We were just saying before we went on the air that the Browns, have had 2 disappointing losses, obviously. If they're going to get to the 6-5, which is going to be hard, that we hope they can get to give them a chance with Deshaun Watson, they're going to need to pull some upsets.
Yes.
They're a 3-point underdog in this game, even though it's at home. Gee, I'm going to start with you. How you feeling about the Browns' offense against the Chargers defense?
Be candid with him and tell him what you said.
By the way, my physical, before you answer, my physical therapist said to me today, I'm doing my workouts this morning, he goes, I got to tell you, I was depressed after the Browns game, and then I rewatched your post-game show, and he goes, G. Bush is going so crazy in that thing that it made me actually laugh. And it cheered me up.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, so I'm a tyrant and crazy. G. Bush was talking so outside of his being that it was funny. I just had to laugh.
Your fury was amusing to them.
Listen, these losses be hurting me. They hurt bad, especially when I think there's some things that they could do to win. And the first 4 games was where the saving grace was. I knew coming after these games, like we all did, guess what? It gets a lot tougher.
What?
And, this ain't going to look good. I'm going to keep it real with y'all. There's only a couple things that the Browns can do to even stay in this football game. And that's, A, do what they did on that screen, no turnovers. And I mean none. Not even at the end in Jacoby Brissett. Not at the end.
But that's when he likes to.
Yeah, when it counts.
Right.
None of that. And they're going to have to run the ball like they've never ran the ball. I mean, it should be a repeat rinse, and just keep doing it because they need to really limit the amount of times that the Chargers offense gets the football because if they let them have the ball, there's nothing they can do on defense. There's nothing. We haven't even started talking about that. We'll get to that probably tomorrow, but the offense is going to have to be good enough for offense and defense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much hope right now, honestly, that Myles Garrett's going to play this week either. I mean, maybe he will, but if you ask me today, do I believe he's going to play? I'd guess no. Nope. We don't know about Clowney. He has started to practice. We'll see. Mike, you seem
Well, I'll
depressed.
tell you what, I am. Right before we were saying how, boy, it would be nice if we could get this upset. That would really help the season. They would turn around. That was about the response he had right there. A soft, evil giggle was what G offered. And he said, I'm not going to say exactly what you said, but you sort of reflected a lack of faith in that might not happen.
Yeah, I basically said they might get smoked.
I know that we're supposed to be talking about defense on offense right now, and I will, but you can't talk about this without talking about the Chargers offense because that's a big part of how often our defense is going to be out there and how often our offense is going to be out there. And I watched that game. You can watch the game like sped up. You can watch like the 13 minutes of all the action. I watched that. It was like a horror movie to me watching that offense operate, watching that Chargers offense operate. We are not, hey, look who's here. We are not stopping. We are not stopping that offense just so everybody knows.
Austin Hedges, you're out.
Yeah, hop out, Austin Hedges.
How'd you do, Austin?
He was amazing.
Buy our shirts.
For our shirts, we were about to get to that.
He was on mute.
So anyways, I watched that offense. It's like they're playing, it's like a video game. They do everything that we are bad at, they exceed at. They excel at. Yeah. Like all these little dump passes that always kill us, he always sees the open man. He has like 10 options every single time.
Wide open.
I think that I have, and without Myles Garrett and probably Clowney, and at least probably not having Clowney at 100%, I don't see how they're going to stop this team. Eckler just looked insane.
All right, guys. You've mentioned the bad news. Jay, you come in. These guys are talking about all the bad news against the Chargers. But
There's a lot of bad news.
There is a lot of bad news.
And we haven't spoken.
But let me give you let me make you feel a little better and give you a little hope here, okay? I don't know when I became the optimistic guy. I've never been the optimistic guy.
The optimistic
but all
dude.
of a sudden, I'm the optimistic guy. How that happened?
We need one here.
Okay, here we go. So first of all, let me get the one negative out of the way. Yes, if you try to have a Jacoby Brissett, Justin Herbert battle, the Browns are going to lose that battle. We're aware of that.
Agreed, it's a good.
But here's the good news. The Chargers this year, I know it's 4 games, but that's all I got right now, have been not bad. They've been hideous against the run. Hideous. Every starting back they faced, all 4, have killed them, destroyed them on the ground. Absurd numbers. They're averaging, some of the guys they all averaged at least 5 yards per carry, okay? What's their rushing?
They're only 14th. Their rush defense is 14th in the NFL.
Well, some of that, but I'm doing yards per carry, okay? Now, in a couple of those games, they had big leads, so the teams had to give up on the run.
And that's why you got to dismiss those stats. It's 4 games, and in 2 of them, the teams abandoned the run by halftime.
Exactly. But when those teams ran, they ran it well. Even the Chiefs, who don't really run it well, Clyde Edwards-Helaire only had 8 carries, but he had like 70 yards on those 8 carries.
Yeah.
Josh Jacobs of the Raiders tore him up. And this past week, they played.
So you're saying the Browns will run all over that defense?
James Robinson of the and you're talking about, and then who did they play this past week?
The Texans and
Texans.
the
Dameon Pierce, the rookie, had a monster game.
Had a long
them.
run, too.
Okay? And those guys are not great backs. Dameon Pierce is a rookie. Maybe he will be. The other 3 guys are good, solid NFL backs, but they're not special backs like Kareem Hunt or Nick Chubb. Number 2, the Chargers, even though Austin Eckler's a good talent, have not run the ball well this year. And they are, big time, as we know, a pass-first offense.
Sure.
Now, in theory, I know this hasn't really panned itself out too well, but in theory, the Browns' strength on defense should be their pass defense.
Can't we throw that out, though, after what we've seen through 4 games?
Yes.
Because they're not what they were in 2021.
It's not.
They're who they are now.
It's through 4 games, they're not. It's not their strength. My hope is that it will finally emerge this week.
That's
now,
hope.
That's hope. I agree.
Yeah.
There is talent to make you believe that could happen.
He's right.
But it's
When
not
did
a
you
guarantee.
become the
I
optimist?
have no idea.
You're finding the silver lining.
Listen, the Browns have to control. I'm not a big control clock generally guy. I think it's overrated a lot of ways in the NFL. But in this game, the Browns must be 60% minimum running the ball to run clock and keep Herbert off the field as much as possible.
And I will give you this. Last week, as much as I said, hey, the field goal situation on the road, we laughed about how there's always a prerequisite on the road 3.
Yeah.
I'm with you this week. I just don't.
3 won't beat Los Angeles.
I do have to ask this, though. We talk. You're saying that our one major advantage in your eyes, and I think you're right, is our running game is superior, and their defense can't stop our running game.
Yes.
Is it a problem that their one strength that happens to be reflected in our game last week in a negative way? And by that I mean we couldn't stop their running backs in any way. Our run defense is terrible, and those were running backs named Tyler Algier and Caleb Huntley that we couldn't stop. So is it bad that even the one thing that we have going for us, it seems as though that's also a weakness on our defense?
Yeah, it is. However, the Chargers are inclined to throw the ball. Even last week, when they were winning big, and they have a really good back in Austin Eckler, they still threw the ball. Even though they were winning by a lot early, they still threw the ball a ton.
They had a lot of
Their offense is predicated on throwing the ball. They do not run the ball a ton. Austin Eckler gets a lot of passes.
Well, he's got almost 200 receiving yards this year.
He's a good back as a runner. He's a great back as a pass catcher.
307 yards a game for the Chargers. And if you think these guys are walking wide open against the Browns, I mean, we got bust against the middlings of the league.
Yeah.
These guys could put 21, 28 on you in a quarter, and it's good night, Irene.
G. Bush, they're watching tape right now, and they're going back and watching plays over to make sure that their eyes didn't deceive them the first time. They are salivating right now at the thought that Justin Herbert, the first good quarterback they've faced, gets to play a defensive secondary that has had 6 pass breakdowns. 6.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's unacceptable.
It's terrible.
I'm glad you're optimistic, though.
And the Chargers and Justin Herbert, by the way, like these other quarterbacks, we said there's been 6 breakdowns.
There's been probably 12, but they've only capitalized on 6.
Justin Herbert will capitalize every time you break down.
Yes, he will.
Unlike some of the guys who face.
surgical.
So if you make those mistakes, he will hit it every time. Now, one thing that's big. Now, Herbert looked great last week. He looked back to himself after he looked terrible the week before after the injury.
Ribs.
Keenan Allen hasn't played the last couple of weeks. Now, it didn't affect him last week, but he's a great player. And you'd rather him not play than play. Because with Keenan Allen, now you have Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, which is a great tandem. Without him, then it's just Mike Williams, who's good, but he's not the precision route runner. Keenan Allen worries me the most. Mike Williams is a big play guy, and he's going to be dangerous. He'll take the top off the defense. Yeah. But without Keenan Allen, it's, he's huge if he's back this week.
They just, you're a franchise guy because they got another receiver. I forget. I picked him up on
Josh Palmer.
Yeah, that Palmer guy. He's open now. I don't understand.
He's talented, but he ain't Keenan Allen.
He's not Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
Well, would you agree with this statement? This is the first game of the 4, now 5, that the Browns are clearly outclassed in talent?
Across the board, I don't think so.
Rosters.
At quarterback,
You're
yes.
looking at the rosters, and you can say, I'll take Cleveland's or I'll take Los Angeles. Who are you taking when you look at the rosters?
I mean, right now I take it, but it's mostly because of Herbert. Because, you know.
I mean, Bosa's out. If Garrett's out, that's a scratch.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, at wide receiver.
Their wide receiver talent is so much better than the Browns.
If Keenan Allen plays. If
He's
he
expected to play, right? I mean,
he hasn't played the last couple of weeks.
No, I know, but I thought they were
he
shooting
may,
for this week for him
if he
to be
does,
ready.
then obviously it's a big gap because Amari Cooper's is, you know, in that same class with Keenan. He's probably between Keenan Allen and Mike Williams.
I like your approach that when you look at the matchup, obviously it's got to be heavy run to pass. It has to be.
Has to be, yeah.
But what scares me about that is a couple of weeks ago, we saw what happened to Miami when it came to the time of possession and the yardage.
Right.
Yet somehow they find a way to win the game. I think they possessed the ball 18 minutes to 42 minutes.
That's an anomaly, though, and it doesn't mean it can't happen again.
It can happen, but my fear is you're not going to beat them kicking field goals.
No.
And I've seen this red zone offense operate, and it's not pretty. So to beat the Chargers, when you get to the red zone, you have to roll sevens.
Yeah,
you have to.
100%. It's going to be hard for the Browns to win this game, but it's not impossible. They're only a 3-point underdog. You know what?
How are they only a 3-point underdog?
Because it's at home.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it,
I think
if the game were in LA, they'd probably be an 8-9 point dog in this game.
Wow.
Like, look at the Steelers. They're a 14-point underdog this week. Have you ever seen the Steelers?
Never.
14-point underdog. They played the Bills.
But they're also rolling out a rookie quarterback who didn't look great.
Right.
And the team is clearly reeling defensively as
I
well.
mean,
well, guys,
it's going to be hard. The Browns' defense looked really well. The run defense looked awful last week. And if Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney don't play, I know we don't think of them as run stoppers, but Jadeveon Clowney's one of the best run-stopping DNs in the league.
I'm going to tell you what. I went back and looked.
Yeah.
And I was watching the All-22. And up front, we have no shot.
Not without those guys.
No. Yeah. Like, they're not even, like, I'm just giving y'all paint a picture. I think I'm going to do a video and put it up. They're not even blocking them sometimes. They just don't block them and let them run it, and then they get ran past, or they have no awareness where the ball is. They have no gap assignments. If they don't play, they can run the ball or pass the ball. They can do whatever they want. I don't know how they're going to stop them ever. Like, you might have to have a surprise on the side. I don't know if you could get a tip pass.
Are they in the 40s, do you think, the Chargers? Are they putting 40 up?
Pro Football Focus says all of our defensive linemen, and I can see why, 24%, 25%.
It was bad, G.
It was really bad, man. I mean, it's not above replacement. Like, guys are walking off the street.
So you wouldn't be surprised then if they put up 40?
They put up 40 last year, right? And they put up 40 last year, and they just kept coming back. And that was the best game Baker probably low-key played.
It's a problem that we all agree on this, and we agree that if somehow they end up winning this game, it will be in spite of the roster and the talent on that team, and not. Normally, you're right. We're talking about teams where we're like, well, we're evenly matched here. We can, maybe we can make up a little ground here, but here we're like, it's going to take some kind of magic, or someone's going to have to be in a mood.
I actually don't agree with that.
You don't?
I mean, again, they're only a 3-point favorite, and I know it's at home. I don't think the overall talent of the rosters is a big difference.
Think about their offense.
The overall talent
Their receivers are
quarterback.
better.
Well, but again, if
their tight end's better.
And they have a premier running back. If they didn't have a premier running back, I would say,
Chubb,
at least we've got a huge edge there. But
I can't even think of who their tight end is right now. I'm drawing a blank.
I got it. Jared Everett.
Yeah, he's not any better than Njoku. That's a wash.
Really?
Yeah, he's not any better.
Now I'm going to ask you.
Yeah.
To me, the only way they win this game is if they really just say, Nick Chubb is the best player on the field, and you can't stop him, and we're giving it to him 30 times.
I mean, I would like to see Nick Chubb have the ball 25, 30 times, certainly. I would like to see them run it 60% of the time. But remember, guys, what we've seen, the good news is what we've seen in the NFL so far this season is a whole lot of parity. And there's been a lot of teams that have lost games
almost
that they
half
should
the
have
league
won.
is 2-2.
Yes. There's one team with no wins, the Texans, who have a tie, and one team with no losses. That's it.
And everybody else is bunched up in the middle.
The Ravens have had 2 bad losses. The Bengals have had 2 bad losses. You look at some of the Colts beat the Chiefs. How the hell did that happen? The Colts have looked terrible.
Yeah.
And then they looked awful last week.
Awful.
Now compare that.
So week to week, the Browns, listen, I know coming off this past game against the Falcons, we're feeling really down about the Browns. And I get it. They played a lousy game. It's a game we expected them to win, and they didn't. In the end, they were only a 1-point favorite. It's not like they were some huge favorite in Atlanta. The Chargers are better. I just don't think it's as big a gap as.
I think what we're all trying to say here is in the first 4 games, the Browns had the roster edge. I think we all agree with that.
Yes.
And somehow they came through that just 2-2.
Right.
And in this game, they don't have the edge. I think that the edge is actually more in the Chargers' favor than you do. You tend to think it's a lot closer. I just look at the wide receivers that the Browns roll out there, and the passing game that the Chargers are going to roll out there, and I think this is much bigger than a 3-point deficit.
Well,
I do.
I mean, it certainly
Now
could
look,
turn out to be.
to your point, it's the NFL in 2022.
Yeah. Right.
Anybody can win on any given Sunday. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Browns won, but my smart money would be on given those points.
I think a lot of people will be betting the Chargers because a lot of people are going to look at this game and say,
I think that line's going to move.
How are they only a 3-point favorite?
Do you think it's the uncertainty of Myles Garrett? We don't know. I mean, he's going to swing the point spread a point or two.
I think the point spread is assuming he's going to be out. That's
there
what I think.
There was a report last weekend that it looks like he's looking at multiple games, that these injuries are going to linger more than just 1 week.
Schefter said 2 to 4 weeks, by the way.
What's that?
Schefter reported to be 2 to 4 weeks before he's completely back in the green zone, full contact, everything.
It's a wrap.
That could be. I mean, it really could be a wrap.
I'm just not. I want y'all to understand something. I got to give you some visuals here.
It's always something. Something always unravels the Browns season.
They are not
every year.
They are not as constituted up front. They're not getting any pressure. It won't come. And here's the thing too. If you don't have the players, you have to look for your coaches to do something creative, to makeshift something, to manufacture something. And I just don't see it. Joe Woods is not changing anything. He's already shown that in 3 years. He's not going to start blitzing all of a sudden right now. That's not him. And Kevin Stefanski, if you look at it, the only way we know that they're going to win this game if he says, he goes to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt before this week and say, listen, it's all y'all. I need y'all's best game. I'm going to find every way to get you the ball. Jacoby might throw it 17, 19 times, but we win if you guys dominate. And that's the only way. And I don't see him doing that. I
will say this, though. We actually only win when Amari Cooper has a good game, if you'll notice. The 2 games where he was not involved, we came up short. In the 2 games where he had 101 yards, then we won.
No, that's not true.
Yeah, it is.
He had 101 yards 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, he did.
So he won the first game.
Right.
No,
the first game the Browns won.
Right. Okay.
Even though he didn't have
he had Jets in Pittsburgh. He had 101.
You're
games.
counting the Jets.
He only should have been a win. He plays well at home. There you go.
Okay, that's better. Well, my point is,
and they're playing this game at home. So
my point is, I love the run. Of course, we all want to run the ball, but it's proven that it's very helpful to get Amari Cooper involved, and we play better as a team when you actually mix it up a little bit.
There is hope that will happen.
Yes.
I'll say from looking at Nick Chubb, we all want Chubb to run the ball more. I look just because it's been such a topic of conversation. I think he's 3rd in the league in carries.
Mm-hmm. We've said this before.
And here's the other thing. He's got 81 carries on the season. I think the leader has 83 or 84.
Yeah.
He's on a strict 20 carry pitch count. That's what he is. You're not going to see. I don't think you'll ever see a game where he's at 28 carries. I think that the one thing that Stefanski is super disciplined on is the number of touches he gives to Nick Chubb. And whether or not that's coming from the analytics department that says if your back averages 20 yards a carry, you get an extra 2 seasons out of him on the backside.
Okay.
I don't know.
That would be
laughing.
real, right?
That's something the analytics department would say.
I'm laughing because it's true.
It is true.
Yeah, but that would be really dumb. I mean, I'm not worried about him in the back end of his career.
They are.
They are. Because they're paying him.
Well, but they're paying him for how many years? He's only got, 2 more years of guaranteed money?
Yeah, but obviously they'd love to stretch him out 7 instead of 5.
I get it.
Because
teams do that all the time.
Because the goal is to get him with Watson. Then it opens up.
Well, yeah.
If you get him, but you got to get him to Watson.
One thing, by the way, I was just reading that it's not looking good for Keenan Allen this week, and that's a big deal.
All right.
Now, it's not set in stone, but there was a lot of optimism that he would.
Originally, they were saying we're looking at week 5.
Right. But
so then maybe
Staley
he's had a
said yesterday, hey, he's still day-to-day, and we're going to be very conservative with him.
I just don't know how much you can buy into what the coach says.
I don't buy that the Chargers, without him, the Chargers wide receiving core is probably worse than the Browns, or at best equal. I mean,
You
don't
can't be
know.
worse than the Browns wide
well,
receiver
Amari
core.
Cooper's better than Mike Williams. He's a more proven player.
Okay, but I think just
But they have nobody else either.
But you have to go on. But who are the Browns rolling out there?
But who are they running out?
Schwartz is a fast guy that you might use on an end around. But last week we gave it to our tight
I know,
end.
but
That didn't make sense.
You
I
know
was
how
about to say Darius Hayward-Bay. Donovan Peoples-Jones
What
has
are
done
those
as much
hyphens?
as Josh Palmer has done on the Chargers.
But here's the thing, though. We looking at just names. I'm looking at what they doing. When I watch them play, they're wide open.
well, they're getting
They're wide open.
Well, they're getting passes from Justin Herbert.
Yeah,
too.
is.
he's
Here's the
throwing
thing.
it
And
too.
that's the ultimate
Guys,
difference.
I think the key to this discussion is
Yeah.
they're giving up 27 points a game. Okay, so when you look at their total defense, scoring defense, they're ranked 30th in the league. So, yes, there's doom and gloom everywhere. The wide receivers, Garrett might
Yeah.
not play. All of the doom and gloom. What it basically boils down to is you've got to hold them to 28 points or less. If they score over 28, I don't see the Browns putting
They
up
scored
30.
24 in the first
I
half
don't.
this past year.
Well,
this past
listen,
week.
listen. If there's an offense that's capable of doing that,
Yeah.
it's this one. But when I look at the matchups and I look at the rankings and I look at everything else, where are they weak? Well, clearly they're giving up 27 a game. That's third last in the league. So the Browns have to get to 28, and their defense has to wake the hell up. They can't have breakdowns.
Yeah.
They can't have, to your point, and that's the key to this game, I believe, is the Browns' defensive secondary. Because you've got in my mind, a top 3 quarterback on the other side. He's leading the league in passing.
yeah.
He will absolutely eviscerate that defense if they're looking around shrugging their shoulders like I thought you had them.
Yeah,
it's going to be a long day.
He will
They've
not
gotta
miss
get it together.
opportunities. They will not miss opportunities. The secondary's got to play a great game. I just think it's also something we haven't talked about. These teams that come from the West Coast to the East,
Yeah, no,
that plays
that's
a factor.
It does.
especially it's an early game. It's a 1 o'clock game.
Yeah.
A lot of times West Coast teams struggle with
I
those 1 o'clock
imagine they
games.
would come in Friday and not Saturday
Sure,
to
but
try to get
I'm
more
not sure I like
acclimated.
being dependent on jet lag for us to pull this one out, but I agree that's
I
a
don't
factor.
know,
We're the
man.
Browns. Any factor we can
I know,
get.
I'll
I
take
hope
it.
it's freezing rain.
Yeah.
I tell you what, look,
Yeah.
man, they got to have one of those drives where you look up and whoever's calling the game says, I mean, look at this. You know, the Browns have had this ball the whole entire
Yeah.
second quarter.
Yeah.
Like that, it may
We
seem,
get one of those sometimes. We get one of those a year.
Right, we get one of
Typically,
those.
where you're like,
And-
how'd that happen?
And they're going to need about 2 of those in this game to limit the amount of points they get. This team can score points quick. They score fast. And if you look at the games we played against really good quarterbacks like Herbert or Patrick Mahomes, the games where you going 3 and out or you kick your field goals, you'll lose every time.
every time.
Yeah, you got to score touchdowns.
You have to convert, and they have to get themselves in manageable positions because if he's going to be aggressive and go for it, that means third down is important. Don't rush to the line of scrimmage and hurry up.
Right.
Yeah, don't try to trick them.
Run the rock and then be like, I got 2 downs to get 3 yards.
Yeah.
That's what you look at. And they just have to be physical. And I just know, given what the Browns defense is, they're not going to get any pressure. So they have to manufacture something. So you got to look at your coordinator and say, look, what can you do to help these inferior players out? And that's part of coaching.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, if the defense cannot turn it around over the next few weeks, then maybe at the bye week they make a change there.
At the top.
Because I would think,
Yeah.
assuming you have a guy on the staff you think could take over, because it's hard bringing somebody from
Yeah.
out of the team, in the
Mid-season.
middle of the season.
You almost give up on the season when you start changing coaches and quarterbacks. In the middle.
Sure.
You
sure.
almost give up on it.
Because
Yeah.
you're like, let's promote the guy who wasn't good enough to get your job earlier in the year.
Right.
Or sometimes you get a shot. Greg Williams, right? Well, look, he took over
No,
as coach.
you're right.
Decent
And,
job.
and it was a shot in the arm.
There are
That year
examples
they
of it.
almost made the playoffs.
But you're taking someone in the system that had a ton of experience.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know that the Browns have that guy on the staff. One other thing that I want to make a point of, we made a big issue yesterday of do you take the 3 or
Right.
do you go for 7? I think the one thing that we left off that discussion yesterday was who you're playing. Against
that.
Atlanta, you this isn't a juggernaut offensively. Take whatever points you can. Against the Chargers,
Yes.
you got to roll 7s.
Yeah.
I don't want to kick field
You
goals
got
on
it,
4th
yeah.
and 1. I want to go for it.
Right.
But I think
Right.
the opponent has to factor into that decision. And by the way, I don't think the analytics equation takes that into account.
McNuggets, you say
Go ahead, McNuggets.
We got a little bit of breaking news real quick that I want to ask you a question before we get to it, Didi. But Jerome Ford has been placed on the IR after suffering an ankle injury against Atlanta. I didn't even notice he got banged
Does he
up
even
in the
play?
game.
I didn't even know he played.
Special teams.
But Jerome Ford
Yeah,
is
he
now,
returned 2 kicks for like negative yards
By
last
the
week.
way, Dearness Johnson made a terrific play.
I love
Great tackle
big
at
tackle.
17.
Big tackle.
But I do want to ask you guys a question real quick. We saw the Falcons take advantage of Myles Garrett and Clowney not being there, especially in the run game.
Right.
Joey Bosa is not playing in this game. He's at least in the same category of pass rusher as Myles Garrett. How should the Browns take advantage of the Chargers, not having one of their elite pass rushers on the
Well,
outside?
the
Chargers
blitz more than anybody in the league.
Right. And
They
that's another
love-
reason to throw the ball.
That is another
I'm
reason
sorry, to run the ball. Yeah.
Now I don't know. I'd like to see those stats. Are they blitzing even without Bosa? Because obviously, that's to your point, and we made this point before last week. When you're dinged with your guys that typically get home, then the focus goes to the defensive coordinator. What are you doing? Are you sending 5 guys? Are you bringing a safety? Are you bringing a backer? Are you changing things up? The Chargers have done that in the absence of Bosa because the game plan dictates you have to. You've got to get home with someone, and with your best pass rusher out, you got to do it in creative ways. The Chargers have done that. The Browns last week did not, and they better figure it out this week. They better figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, and Bosa being out, just between the fact that they like to blitz, and I don't know if the numbers change dramatically with him being out last week.
I don't either. That's the one thing we don't know.
Between them loving to blitz and being bad against the run and no Bosa, like to me, it just signals more running. And if you're running effectively, which they should, that leaves the Chargers open for Jacoby taking a couple of chances on play action.
Did anybody else
make
make
some
a
big
mental
plays.
note how many times Chubb and Hunt were on the field at the same time? I counted 2.
Two.
And
Okay,
both
I
of
didn't
them
notice.
were big gainers.
Huge plays.
Both of them were. One of them was the touchdown.
That is and you guys were very critical of Kevin Stefanski. I've defended Kevin Stefanski more, but my biggest criticism of him is the lack of using those 2 guys together, especially late in the game in big moments, because when I'm trying to win a game at the end, I want to have my best weapons on the field.
Right.
And Kareem Hunt's a great weapon. We want him on the field too, but not at the expense of Nick Chubb.
Like Jay pointed out, they bring them in, right? You're playing, it's crunch time, you need an answer score. They run Kareem Hunt out of the backfield, put him in motion, defense just runs with him. They turn and give it to Nick Chubb, he doesn't get touched.
You've got 2 thoroughbreds on the field at the same
Touchdown.
time.
Right.
And it's like, the frustrating part is, sometimes just because the obvious is there and novices or people you may think aren't as smart as you pointed out, you don't have to just say, I'm smarter than that. I'm not about to do what you said do.
Yeah.
You can learn from your enemies, people you don't like. You can just be like, hey, that was some decent advice. I'm going to use that. Like, it's not that crazy to say you should be running that more. We're not saying do it every single play. But when you're looking at it, I'm just saying look at the other teams and how they use players, right? Look at Miami. The Dolphins said, you know what, we got Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. We just throwing it up. Like, they're not trying to establish some run play. They're like, no, he's faster than everybody. Let's see if you can catch him. And they throw it up.
You know how you said that they obviously have Chubb on a run count, and that's true. I mean, you look at
When has he had over 20?
You're right. He's obviously
He's had over 20.
He had
He
23.
never has like 27.
He'll never
28.
30.
regardless.
But it looks like, a pitcher on a 100 pitch count will have 103, 104.
Yeah.
But there is an obvious
Agreed.
effort
But
here
what about
to
five?
keep him
So
to
okay, how about 5 more how about 5 more runs for Kareem Hunt? How about what did Dearness
Right.
Johnson do last year other than succeed every time you put him in a position and gave him the ball and let him
And he's
run?
buried.
Mix it up.
So even
Throw
if it's
him
not
in.
Chubb and Hunt,
get
maybe
Chubb
it's
off the field if
Johnson
you're worried
and
about
Chubb.
it. Let's
Maybe
try
it's
Dearness.
Johnson
Yeah.
and
I
Hunt.
like
And if I'm Stefanski,
He's drunk on tight ends.
And-
He's drunk
yeah,
on
I-
tight
I
ends.
told you.
And it's got to stop.
That
If-
tight end
if
fetish,
I'm Stefanski-
the fetish has to quit.
Yeah.
He fetishized tight end. When the tight end reversed, he's been walking us into this. He started with the screen, and people around the league was like, okay, we'll accept the screen. But we're not going to accept the tight end reverse. We're not accepting
Have you guys ever seen a more odd, weird, bad trick play than a tight end reverse?
No.
Into the short
Never.
side
It
of
might
the
be the
field.
worst play call I've ever heard.
Njoku's a
or
good
seen.
athlete, but all right.
Guys, one thing I want to bring up is if you watch the Packers game on Sunday, they kept talking about their pony package. They call it the pony package. That's when they have Jones and Dillon in the game at the same time.
Right.
They're a pass team, for crying out loud. They have Aaron Rodgers. Now, This year, because their receiving core is down
Yeah.
and the passing yards haven't been there, what does Green Bay do? We can run the ball too. So now, let's listen to these numbers. Jones, 16 carries, 110 yards. Dillon, 17 carries, 73 yards. That's 33 carries between the two of them. But there's more. Dillon had 2 receptions, and Jones had 3. So you're talking about 38 touches from your running backs on a team that is notoriously built on Rodgers' right arm.
Right.
And
So
I think
there's
Chubb
no
and
reason
Hunt.
the Browns can't get these guys more involved.
I think Chubb and Hunt probably had close to that this past game, but I would have even more because
know.
they have Aaron Rodgers.
That's a
and we
quarterback
have-
that can throw.
Right.
I watched some of these passes from Jacoby. Bless his heart, Big Jake. But man, I'm telling you, it looked like he was throwing them end over end sometimes. Like he's just throwing them like an axe. Like he's throwing an axe, and the motion on it's terrible.
Jacoby's done a pretty good job.
Sure, he has done a
Overall,
pretty
through
good
4
job.
weeks. He's played certainly better than I expected. The offense as a whole has been better than I expected. Even the running game, which I thought would be great, has been even better than I could have possibly thought. But the bottom line is, to me, if I'm running 2-minute drill late in the game and I need to win this game, I need a touchdown, I need a field goal to win the game, there's 3 players that have to be on the field every single play. Chubb, Hunt, and Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
They had
Whatever
33
other
They're
guys you want to put in there,
They're your best
fine.
players. Keep
Those
them out
3
there.
guys got to be on the field to me every
Yeah,
play
don't complicate
when
it.
it's a clutch moment.
Dillon and
They had
Jones had
33
40
touches, by the way.
touches,
Yeah.
33.
and our guys had
33.
32.
33, yes.
33.
Well, think about that.
So
if they
now-
had 7
listen.
more touches, Browns probably win the game.
That's it.
We're not asking for 20 more touches. Give them 7 more.
The Packers, I just, when I watch them, you always make the point of why do these other teams make it look so easy?
It is.
How do they make it look so easy? They're one of the teams that I watch, and I know, I
Well,
thought
they
I
were awful in the first half.
I know they
but
were,
yeah.
but they find ways to win
figured
games.
it out.
Their culture is, we're going to stay. Aaron Rodgers said after the game, guys, we can't keep doing this.
Right.
Fact of the matter is, that's who they are. That's what they do. When they're in close games, they find ways to come out on top. When the Browns are in close games, they find ways to bungle it and lose. That's the difference.
You're a Bengals fan, right?
Yeah.
Right. Listen, and here's the thing. When I watch them, and I don't want to just say, people have to be feeling like this.
Yeah.
When I watch them, guys be open. They just be open. Like, and it's
Well,
just
they have
not-
great wide receivers,
No,
though,
but it's just
and a great quarterback.
It's just not the Bengals, though.
Yeah.
It's like I watch the Cowboys. People be open. Sometimes I'll be like, yo, this is crazy. Ravens, people are open. Now, it has to do with the quarterback, but
Yeah.
sometimes it just seems like I haven't seen a post route or a corner. I ain't seen a post in the middle of the field in ever. Like, we just don't have
But
it.
you'll see it
this
with Deshaun
quarterback.
Watson.
Yeah, you're not going to see it with Jacoby Brissett.
I think when Deshaun Watson starts playing, we'll see guys open more.
Well, that might be a thing.
You know,
Might
we'll
be a
see.
thing. We'll see.
Aditi's with us.